Hi everybody, Josh here with Top Square Tutor, and in this video we're going to look at organization and structure. So these questions are easily identifiable on section 2 because they have actual question prompts. I try to save these questions for the very end because they're one of two things, or both. They're either time consuming but easy. So they're not hard to do, but they just take more time. Or they're difficult and they're time consuming. So for those reasons, I always try to save these questions for the very end. But at the end of the day, there's some real, after I do all of my punctuation and grammar questions, there's still time left over. Then I specifically seek out these questions. The one that I've identified are easy. Even though they're time consuming, I try to focus on the ones that are still easy. So don't neglect these ones, but I do recommend you save them for the end and get good at identifying which types of organization and structure questions you are good at. So let's go ahead and take a look at some examples of organization and structure. So basically, organization and structure, your task will be to decide what should stay in the passage or what should go, or which alternative phrase or word doesn't fit properly. Literally, the organization and the structure of the passage is in terms of sentence placement, word placement, the way it's written, things like that. You're having to decide and change accordingly. You're determining the best way to organize and state the messages in the passage. So let's go through the variety of organization and structure questions on practice test 3, section 2. So look at question number 2. Question number 2 is clearly organization and structure because it's asking which choice provides the most appropriate introduction into the passage. So you got to determine and potentially change part of the organization and the structure of the passage. And it has a question prompt as well. So you're not dealing with grammar or punctuation. So these are more straightforward. There's not some super quick tip and trick that could instantly give you the right answer every time. It's more black and white, more straightforward. You got to use more comprehension skills to solve these questions. So which choice provides the most appropriate introduction to the passage? So an introduction introduces what the passage is going to be about. So which of the following introduces what the passage is going to be about? Well, if we look at the title, shed some light on the workplace. So light on the workplace. Okay. So of these ones, reading the first sentence, studies have shown that employers are happier, healthier, and more productive when they work in an environment. What is going to introduce what the passage is going to be about? Choice B is the correct answer because it's the only one that talks about natural light. And between the title and then if we look through the rest of this passage and skim quickly, we can see this passage is about natural light in the workplace. Studies have shown that employers are happier, healthier, and more productive when they work in an environment that affords them adequate amounts of natural light. And then if you keep skimming, artificial lighting to increase the amount of natural light. So those are indications that this article, between the title and what I just underlined, that this is about natural light and light in the workplace, not about choice D, not about asking managers for special accommodations or thoroughly sealed to prevent energy loss, or choice A is about temperatures. We want something talking about natural light. So it's clearly obvious that choice B is the best answer to introduce what the passage is about. So let's look at question number 3. So question number 3 looks like it's going to be a long one, right? Just looking at it, but I'm telling you, these are, in my personal opinion, the easiest organization and structure questions. Go ahead, press pause, give this one a try, read the question, and then let's compare notes and see if you come up with the correct answer. So the writer is considering adding the following sentence at this point. So where are we? We're question number 3. So right at this point, he's thinking of adding that sentence right there, that addition to the sentence. Well, let me read what came before it and see if that makes sense, and that would be a good fit if it continues in the same direction as what's being said. So a study in Chicago showed that inadequate natural light could result in eye strain, headaches, fatigue, as well as interference with the body's circadian rhythms. Okay, so not having a lot of natural light has these negative effects. It interferes with the body's circadian rhythm. Let's see what the next sentence talks about. The next sentence goes right into circadian rhythms and starts describing what circadian rhythms are about. So we have circadian rhythms here, and then a description, a further elaboration of what circadian rhythms actually means. So if we're going to put anything in between that, it should probably be something about circadian rhythms. Workers in offices with windows sleep 46 minutes more per night. No, that completely disrupts the discussion of circadian rhythms. The previous sentence ended with circadian rhythm. The next sentence starts with circadian rhythm. Talking about getting more sleep per night is just completely random and should not be added to the following sentence. Let's look at question number 6. So reading the question, which choice best supports the statement made in the previous sentence? So let's go to the previous sentence, understand it, and see what supports that. So where's the previous sentence? So question 6 is right here. And they want to know this underlined portion, what would best be, what of these choices would best support the previous sentence? So here's the previous sentence. Employees who feel less than 100% and are sleep deprived are also less prone to work at their maximal productivity. So if you're sleep deprived, you're not working at your maximum productivity. Okay, sleep deprived, productivity. Let's write that down. Sleep deprived, productivity. One company in California saw a 5% increase in productivity when it moved from artificially lit light to natural light. That supports the previous sentence. Choice B is the only one that even really talks about productivity. So that's why choice B is the correct answer, because it continues with what was said in the previous sentence. The previous sentence, productivity. They feel less than 100% and are sleep deprived and are less prone to work at their maximum productivity. Well, this company in California saw a 5% increase in productivity when they switched to natural light. So that's the best statement that supports the previous sentence. Let's look at number 13. So number 13, go ahead and give this one a try on your own. I want you to press pause, read the question carefully, and figure out which choice provides the most logical introduction to the sentence. So that's going to rely on you reading what came before that, introduce the sentence, and then what came after that to have it the full scope of the context. When you're ready, press play, and then let's compare notes. So which choice provides the most logical introduction to the sentence? So here's the sentence. Let me see what the rest of the sentence is about. Fred Harvey, an English-born entrepreneur, decided to open up his own restaurant business to serve rail customers. So he opened up his own restaurant business to serve rail customers. Let me see what came before that. Food available on the rail lines was generally of terrible quality. Okay, so food on the rail lines was of terrible quality. So he opened up his own restaurant to better serve the rail customers. So what's something right dead smack in the middle of that that would introduce the idea that because of the terrible food quality, he opened up his own restaurant? The correct answer is C. So food available on the rail lines was of terrible quality. To capitalize on this demand for good food, he opened up his own restaurant business to serve the rail customers. That statement introduces the sentence. It's the best introduction to what the rest of the sentence is going to talk about to open up his own restaurant to better serve those rail customers. Let's look at number 22. Okay, so 22 says the writer is considered revising the underlined portion of the sentence to read. So here's the underlined portion, and he's thinking adding that portion here to the rest of the sentence. Well, let's read what came before that to even understand what's going on here. So living independently and demonstrating an intense work ethic, the Harvey girls became known as a transformative force in the American West. So they were living independently, an intense work ethic. They became a transformative force in the American West, inspiring books, documentaries, and even a musical. Well, if they were that transformative and demonstrated such an intense work ethic and lived so independently, transformative, well, then they could have inspired books and documentaries and even a musical. That would flow. That could possibly make sense. So I'm going to eliminate C and D off the bat because I feel like it can be inserted in here. So I kind of got a 50-50 going on here. So between that, the best answer is A, because it does provide examples of their actual influence. It doesn't serve as a transitional point in the paragraph because we're not transitioning to something completely different. We're further continuing and explaining the role that the Harvey girls had on the American West, that they even inspired those things. So choice A provides the examples of their actual influence. That's why A is the best answer to add that information right there. So lastly, let's look at 43. So at this point, the writer is considered adding the following sentence should he make this addition right there. Go ahead, press pause, see if you feel whether or not the writer should add the following sentence, and then when you're ready, press play and we'll compare notes. So if he's thinking of adding the following sentence right there, let me read what came right before it to better understand it. The wise, thoughtful green eyes of the subject of the Hermitage Court outrunner cat mimic those of a trusted royal advisor. Some find it peculiar to observe cats portrayed in formal court poses. So we're talking about green-eyed cats mimic those of a royal advisor. Some find it peculiar to observe cats portrayed in those court poses. So a lot of cats and royal advisors and poses of these cats. What the heck does the museum and how many buildings it occupies have anything to do with cats, trusted royal advisors? The poses that the cats were in has nothing to do with that. So for that reason, choice D is the best answer. It provides background information that is completely irrelevant to what we're even talking about, which is cats and the poses and how they're portrayed to their advisors has nothing to do with it. So choice D is the best answer. So that's it for organization and structure. The last one we're going to look at, which is super simple, is charts and graphs. Let's look at some examples of those. So charts and graphs are very straightforward, pretty much the same thing as we did in section 1 reading comprehension. Just read and understand the graph first, then go to the question. So as soon as you see it's a question about the graph, don't start trying to answer it. I want you to go to the graph first and understand the graph as a whole. Then the question and the answer choices are going to make a lot more sense. So let's look at practice test 7, section 2, number 21. So which choice makes the writer's description of the figure most accurate? Okay, so we're talking about this figure right here. So let me understand the figure first. We have professional networks at the top, coaching and consultation next, and then at the bottom in the smallest circle, foundation and skill building workshops. Okay, professional development framework, different types of professional development. So now let me see the answer choices and see which make the writer's description of the figure most accurate. Which is an accurate description of the figure? The correct answer is choice C. This is the most accurate description of the graph. Membership in a professional network is the overarching framework. Well, here's the professional network, and it is the overarching framework, within which staff receive coaching and consultation. Okay, here's coaching and consultation next, as well as the opportunity to attend foundation and skill building workshops, which is the next. So choice C is a clear, simple, accurate description of what's going on in this figure. So that's it for charts and graphs. Again, between the examples we looked at on section 1, reading comprehension, and this example right here, there's no crazy tips or tricks or strategies. They're very straightforward. I find these very simple points to get right. It's black and white. So definitely want to hop on those as some easy points. So that concludes our lessons for section 2, the writing and language portion of the SAT test. Again, to recap, there's grammar questions, punctuation questions, organization and structure questions. This is what students say is the easiest section on the SAT. So make sure you implement the strategies that we talked about. You'll get a really high score on this section, and it'll make up for any other areas on the SAT that you lack. So I really appreciate you tuning in as always. Again, I'm Josh with Top Score Tutor, and remember, with consistent and quality practice, it is impossible not to score well on the SAT. Best of luck.